Percival Wilde was an American author and playwright who wrote novels and numerous short stories and one-act plays. He was born on 1st March 1887 in New York City. He also authored a textbook on the theatre arts. Native to New York City, Wilde graduated from Columbia University in 1906 and worked for a time as a banker. He began writing plays in 1912. Wilde's plays were especially popular in the Little Theatre movement. Percival Wilde chose to portray the value of life in his plays, throwing light on a specific trait of an individual. Some of his famous books are The Devil's Booth, Mystery Weekend, Inquest, Design for Murder, Rogues in Clover, P. Moran Operative, Dawn, The Noble Lord, Playing with Fire, The Finger of God, Confessional, A Question of Morality, The Unseen Host and Other War Plays, The Reckoning, 8 Comedies for Little Theatres, and The Hour of Truth. His one-act play, The Hour of Truth, is a testimony to his craftsmanship where the 3 classical unities of time, place and action are observed. The climax of the play develops rapidly and ends with a pleasant surprise. This famous American author died on 19 September 1953. The prescribed one-act play, The Hour of Truth, is a study on the corrupting influence of money on people. It also helps us explore greed from different angles. And it's all about how people easily forget their moral values and principles. The play also makes the readers realize that money only brings isolation, punishment, deception, frustration, and endless shame. Let's move on to learn the summary of the play, The Hour of Truth, written by Percival Wilde. The play, The Hour of Truth, is written by Percival Wilde, which is taken from A Question of Morality and other plays. It beautifully portrays the integrity of a person and his painful sacrifice of friendship in defense of truth. Before we move on, let's learn about the characters. Robert Baldwin is a protagonist in this play who leads a simple life with his wife Martha, his son John, and her daughter Evie. Mr. Robert Baldwin is working as the Secretary of National Bank, who is a man of principles. He is an honest, diligent and hardworking employee who has been working in the bank for more than 35 years. Though he is a middle-aged man, he is a man of virtues. The play, The Hour of Truth, describes a situation where the honesty and uprightness of this protagonist is put to a crucial test. He is compelled by his family members to compromise on his ethical principles. Let's find out how he is saved from the crisis. Next important character is Mr. John Gresham, a banker who is in police custody for misusing the depositors' money. Though he plays an important role, he does not come to the stage. This is Donovan, the assistant cashier of the bank. This is Mr. Marshall, the president of Third National. The scene is set at Baldwin's cottage and it is Sunday afternoon. Robert Baldwin has gone outside. His wife and children are anxiously waiting for his arrival. John, Baldwin's son, an average young man of 27, is smoking a pipe as philosophically as if this day were no bit more momentous than any other. But Martha, his mother, has made little progress in the last half an hour. And Evie, Baldwin's daughter, takes no pain to conceal her nervousness. For the 10th time in 10 minutes, Evie goes to the window and looks along the sultry road. The sky is so dark. The family is expecting that it will rain, and they do not know whether Baldwin would take his umbrella or not. While the family is waiting for Robert Baldwin's arrival, they are talking themselves about John Gresham, on whose bank Mr. Baldwin worked. Now, due to financial crisis, bank was closed and John Gresham is found guilty for that and is in jail. From their talk, it is evident that John Gresham's trial is on the next day and John Baldwin is giving evidence against him. But John Gresham calls him that day. The family members are very anxious to know why he calls Baldwin. Evie has a doubt whether Baldwin has involved in wrecking of the bank because every newspaper is mentioning that and Baldwin does not say anything against it. Martha tells that the newspaper is unfair to him. Since Baldwin is working under Gresham's orders, the family has a doubt whether he involved in the bank crash. But Martha firmly believes that Baldwin never did anything at all. He found out the bank crash by accident. John immediately says that he saw Donovan, the assistant cashier, the last day at the athletic club. Donovan was working there for 8 years. The news came like a bolt out of a clear sky. John has a suspicion that his father must have known about it because he is the only witness against John Gresham. John feels that because of John Gresham, his name is damaged. Even he mentions that John Gresham has acquired a lot of wealth in these 20 years, while his father is getting just $60 a week. Martha tells that her husband is very dedicated to his work. Whatever John Gresham asked him to do, without revolting, he obeyed. Finally, John Baldwin arrives at the house. Everyone wants to know how the crash happened in the bank. He tells that even he knows what John Gresham is doing only one day before the crash. It is under his pressure that John Gresham closed the bank. He even tells them why John Gresham asked him to meet. John Gresham wants him to tell a sentence. I don't remember when the court asked anything about the bank crash to Robert Baldwin. If Robert Baldwin does this, he will get $100,000. But Robert Baldwin is an honest man, so he does not accept this proposal. But when the whole family hears about the money, their mind begins to change. They begin to convince John Baldwin. Martha wants to know whether the depositors would lose any money. Robert Baldwin replies that no one will lose anything. Thus the family comes to know that the money is safe. John Gresham's crime was that he misappropriated the funds. The family begins to persuade Robert Baldwin to say lie and to help John Gresham. At first, Robert Baldwin is shocked. Martha tells him that since they named their son's name after John Gresham, it will be a disgrace to their son. Also, it was John Gresham who sponsored their son's baptizing. With these words, she forces Robert Baldwin to help John Gresham. According to Evie, if John Gresham tells the depositors that he will pay everything back the next day, they will hate Robert Baldwin for sending John Gresham to jail. John supports her by saying nobody wants to see him punished. He also feels that if John Gresham does not go to jail, he will start a business where Robert can become his partner. This makes Robert Baldwin to get angry. Martha tries to convince Robert Baldwin by saying that now John is the sole breadwinner of the family, but his income is not sufficient for the family to survive. If Robert accepts $100,000 from John Gresham, the family can lead a cozy life. Robert Baldwin never thinks that his family will change after hearing the amount which John Gresham will pay if Robert Baldwin says, I don't remember in the court. He calls them liars, hypocrites, and thieves. But still, the family persuades him to accept the money. By this time, Mr. Marshall, the president of the Third National, arrives in the home. He gives a piece of happy news to Robert Baldwin and his family by telling that a good position is awaiting for Robert Baldwin in the Third National. He hears from John Gresham that Robert Baldwin has refused to tell a lie at the court, which prompted John Gresham to confess. Mr. Marshall is impressed by his honesty. As the play ends, he tells Robert Baldwin's family, I can only say to you what every man will be saying tomorrow, how high I honor and respect your husband. The Hour of Truth is indeed an intense psychological study of the corrupting influence of money on people. The playwright reveals instances of greed from a myriad of different points of view. All individuals are tempted by greed at one point or another in life. This is beautifully portrayed in this play.